celebration today. And welcome to Local Legends, examination of Broward County local Black history. I'm Carlisa Russell. I am an instructional facilitator with the Department of Equity and Diversity. And today I am so very happy and blessed to have with me special guest, local historian and archivist, Mr. Emmanuel George. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I do wanna first say that in the WOVA app, yay for the WOVA app, you will find this presentation. It is a PDF version of the presentation, and all resources along with articles and different things cultivated by myself and actually written and produced by Mr. Emmanuel George. You will be able to find all of those resources and this presentation there. Just one little disclaimer, there is an additional document there that had to do with my last presentation, but it's okay. If you find it useful, keep it. If you don't, then you can discard it. But this presentation is there. It is a PDF version of the presentation, but the links are live. So you should be able to simply click on those resources and it will take you exactly to where you need to be. So our objective for this particular session, first, you're gonna get a pop quiz, right? So we had a long, beautiful, wonderful event today. You had a lot of information, a lot of history. So let's see what you remembered, right? Or maybe there's some things that maybe you do know about our local Black history, and we're going to test your skills a little bit. Then we're going to talk about why local Black history is specifically important. So today we kind of covered the breadth of Black history from Africa to the Americas, Pan-African history. But a little nuanced in this session, we want to really hone in on the importance of local Black history, why that's important to you as a teacher and an educator, why it's important in your schools, and why it's important for your students, right? And why it's important for you to understand the breadth of that history as you try to assist the communities and educate the students that you serve. And then we're going to have a real conversation with Mr. Emmanuel George about his work, about his life, and how he can help us get a better understanding on why this work and engaging young people in this work is so incredibly important. And then we will go over some of the resources. So, Ms. Roxy, I don't know if you're in the background because I personally can't see the chat, but I am going to ask.
I'm here.
Okay, Ms. Roxy.
So you can't see your chat?
I can't see the chat right at this moment because my presentation.
I don't know what the last speaker did, but she was able to, but I don't know. So I'm here. I'll look at it.
I know. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you, Ms. Roxy, as people engage with our little pop quiz here, if you could just read some of the responses that show up, if you would.
Okay.
So what we're going to do with this pop quiz, we have a few important historical things on the screen here. Got Old Dillard Museum, the history of Sistrunk, the Collins family in Dania, St. Ely, Liberia, and Dani, okay? Von D. Mizell, Yola Johnson, Crispus Attucks, all right? So just in the chat, if you guys can just type, maybe something you just learned today, maybe something that you've known all along. Let's see where your skills are in local Black history. What do you know about any of these things on the screen right now?
Anybody? This is local Black history, Broward County local Black history. Blanche Eli Educator School named after her. First, somebody was the first doctor, the Mizzo family. Blanche, John Floyd Beach was changed to Mizzle Eula Johnson, Blanche Eli, principal of Eli High School. Attorney George Allen helped to integrate Broward schools. Old Dilla Museum, Crispus Attucks Middle School. Mizell, okay, they're telling me how to pronounce it, I guess. Dr. Sistrom, MD. Atticus Middle School was named after him. Liberia, Danny was Camp Blanding. Someone said they've been to the Old Dillard Museum. Crispus Attucks was a school for Black folks in Hollywood, Dania area. Old Dillard was the city's first school for African-American students. You good?
Okay, all right. Well, that sounds a little okay, all right. But
Okay.
I'm sure that Mr. George is going to help us out and get a clear understanding of all of those things that we just saw on that screen and the importance of being able to vocalize with authority what those people, places, and events really mean to Broward County Public Schools. So before we get to that, I just want to sort of go over what we know as educators, right? So as educators, we know that we need to embrace local Black history because it helps us support and cultivate relationships with our students and with our community, right? And that is part of the overall school structure and school climate that every educator really seeks to, excel in, right? It's a work in progress. It's something that is ongoing. So cultivating those relationships is difficult when you don't know the community that you serve, right? You don't know the past history, let alone the contemporary history of that community, right? It also allows us to view the community through a historical lens, right? And it also, in viewing a community through its history, you also are invoking areas of empathy and understanding, right, for that particular community. And through empathy and understanding, then we can build up that esteem in terms of acknowledgement and recognition, right? And when we acknowledge and recognize a group of people, I think it was in another presentation that we saw, our young people, our communities of colors, they just want to know that they are seen, right? That they are acknowledged, that the breadth of their work and their genius and creativity and ingenuity is represented and seen. And then it also gives us as educators the ability to share knowledge, right? Because when we know something, teachers don't keep things to themselves, educators don't keep things to themselves. They share that information. And so you are able then to become a vehicle for change in the fact that you will be representative of being able to share this knowledge for new educators or for novice educators, or not even new educators, or educators that just don't know the history, right? But really, really and truly at the basis of all of this is you cannot teach young people that you fear. You cannot teach young people that you know absolutely nothing about, right? You cannot change the way that you look at a community as you drive by not educating yourself. So as educators, we know that what we did today and what we continue to do is so very important to change the way that we do the work in our practice, right? And so this history is extremely important. And I congratulate everyone for being here and in this session. So with that said, I want to introduce Mr. Emmanuel George. Mr. Emmanuel George was born in 1988 in Overtown, Florida. He spent his childhood in North Miami and Miami Shores. In 2000, from 2002 to today, he's been living in Hollywood and Dania Beach. Um, his calling to be a voice and an advocate for for the local Black community came after being taken under Valencia Gunder's wing as one of her mentees, and he's probably going to tell you exactly who she is. Um, and through getting involved in community activism in Miami, he applied what he was taught in the Dade public school system and brought it over to Hollywood and Dania Beach, and we are so proud of that. His passion has always been film and art. He wanted to blend what he loves with community development, with history, and because of his work and dedication to Black Broward, he started his own Black Broward film project and is the producer of the Sistrunk Affair. And I'm so sure that he's going to explain a little bit more about that. I just kind of wanted to put a little personal note in there. As a classroom teacher, I wanted to really engage in project-based learning, which was a mandate or initiative or something that I had to do in the classroom. And I wanted to take that project-based learning and expand it. And how I came across Mr. Emmanuel George's name was I was actually talking to, well, let me go back. Emmanuel George is an alumni from South Broward High School. And another South Broward High School alum, Ms. Tamara James, who was the Dania Beach mayor at that time, gave me Mr. George's name because I contacted her. I said, I really want to get my students engaged. We have such rich history right here around South Broward, Dania Beach, Hollywood. How do I get the kids engaged civically in learning this history and understanding what's happening in terms of policy and getting engaged with the community? And she gave me Mr. Emmanuel George's name. And I think that just that in itself spoke to the ability of a teacher, right? To have the presence of mind to want to engage local community members, local families, the youth all together. And it also spoke to the rich legacy that was right in front of me. I didn't have to go anywhere, really. It was right there. I didn't have to do too much research. I just made a phone call. So I think just in that story, my own personal story of how we are at arm's length, within arm's reach of the resources and the very real people who are continuing this rich legacy of Black history in Broward County. So with that said, I'll introduce Mr. Emmanuel George. Mr. George, do you have anything to open us up with here with regard to being in the conference, what you do in the community, and how we as teachers can continue to work with activists and historians like yourself to further this work? Yeah, unmute yourself, Emmanuel.
Hello, I'm sorry. I think my connection just kind of went crazy for a little bit. But yeah, how y'all doing today? I'm very honored to be here on this platform with so many teachers. And Miss Russell was actually my teacher at one point when I was in the 11th grade. So that just kind of goes to show how far back we go. I don't think she realized it, but she was my teacher. Yeah, I am very passionate about local Black history. It started with my father. My father was very big into history when he was growing up, and my family's from a small island called Dominica in the Lower Antilles. And my father, his mentor, was actually the head of the UNIA in Dominica, which is the United Negro Improvement Association, which was Marcus Garvey's movement that he had. So growing up, history was always being taught to me at the house. And my dad would teach me history, the real history, but he would also educate me on answering questions in school so that I can pass the classes, even if the the questions may be incorrect. For example, did Christopher Columbus discover America? Of course he did not, but you know, me being a young elementary school student, I had to know how to answer it in a way so that yes, he did discover America, but I'm answering yes just because I need to pass this class. So he was very instrumental in that. And then later on, it was Marvin Dunn when I read his book, Black Miami in the 20th Century. And I also watched his documentary, Black Miami in the 20th Century. And it was Dr. Kitty Oliver as well, who wrote the book, Race and Change in Hollywood, Florida. So I consider Dr. Kitty Oliver and Dr. Marvin Dunn as my parents in the historical spirit for local history. And that's just kind of how it got started. And I was a film student at one point at Full Sail University. But I decided to just, you know, focus on doing film on my own instead of going to school and a private school, which would drown me in debt. So I applied my love for the arts with history, and that's how the Black Broward Film Project came about, which is a documentary that I did with Ian Mann and Preemie Matthew Sterling, who are two good friends of mine. And we did this documentary and it got a lot of good feedback. It is on YouTube as well. You just type in Black Broward Film Project. It's about 28 minutes long. And then the Sistrunk Affair, which was the first ever Black Art Week in Broward County that I produced along with Al Huggins. And it was along the Sistrunk corridor. It included the African American Research Library, the Old Dillard Museum, the Midtown Commerce Center, which is Cheryl Dickey's building, the first floor art gallery, as well as the Allen Clubhouse. So from January 17th to January 26th, 2019, we were basically, we had 3 art exhibits. We had a film screening, we had an artist talk, we had a paint and sip, a live artist battle. We had a youth art workshop for kids at Walker Elementary, and it was a great time. So I just find blending the two with the arts and history as a way to entertain but also educate, but we're educating you in an entertaining way, so sometimes you don't even realize you're being taught. And that first exhibit that I curated was at the Old Dillard Museum, and it was done by local Black artists in Broward County, and they paid homage to Broward's Black history through art. So there was paintings of Dr. Cannonball Adderley, Esther Rolle, Blanche Ely, Dr. Sistrunk, Addicts, when honoring the first graduating class of Addicts and the alumni, and so on and so on. There's so many people. And that was basically one of my proudest moments. And currently right now, I'm just working on a program to bring a Black Broward Archive program to Broward County, because I was in Lake Wales from February 26th to April 15th of this year. And I was doing their African American Archive project and preserving Lake Wales's Black history. And it really made me want to do more, to do something like that down here. So it'll be myself, and 2 other folks that I'm working on to be archive builders. Myself to be preserving the rich Black history of Greater South Broward, which would be the Liberia, Daney, Hallandale, Carver Ranches, the historic Black communities of South Broward, Washington Park as well. And then having someone to preserve. I mean, Sistrunk has a rich community already preserved already, but just to uncover more for the Sistrunk community, as well as the Harlem McBride community, which is a Black community that's been in Oakland Park since the 1930s. And then also having someone to help also with the historic Pompano and Deerfield area. So that's currently what I'm doing right now. And I just started a nonprofit called the Black Orchid Foundation, and it's in the process of its 501c3 coming.
Okay, bravo. Well, I had another question, but I think I'm just going to piggyback on that, on your last statement. So what would you want educators to take away from what we're talking about and everything that they've seen today, and how can they become? Well, no, let me go back. I don't want to go there yet. Why is it important for educators to encourage the youth, right, to pursue careers as historians and archivists such as yourself?
I mean, one, I would definitely say it's important because students have to know, we have to educate students on the history in their backyard. They have to understand who the streets are named after. They have to understand some of these empty lots in these communities once was institutions, once was prominent nightclubs where many celebrities and stars were coming to. And then also just preserving the history as well and educating folks to get into archiving is just preserving your story right now. When you look at Broward's Black history, a lot of it is very much hidden and almost forgotten. But, you know, we can also start telling our stories of people today, of the Dr. Sistrunks of today, the Mizell of today, of the Blanche Ely of today, the Miss Portier of today. You know, we have to start educating people on the difference makers today and get their stories preserved, get these interviews documented and archived, and just be able to preserve, because once you're able to show proof and preserve, and you can do a lot of
Emmanuel, your audio went out a little bit. Can you repeat that?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So, yeah. So, for example, when I was in Lake Wales, I was doing the African American Archive Project, and Lake Wales is a Black community is a city of about 16,000, but the Black population is about roughly 5,000. And when I was interviewing Ms. Dorothy Scott Wilson, who graduated from Roosevelt High School, class of 1968, and 1968 is an interesting year because that is a year where many Black high schools ended up becoming middle schools, and Addicts High School was one of them, and now it's Addicts Middle School that we know today. And when I was interviewing her, one of the things that she was that really caught my attention was I was asking her about gentrification, because I was on Lincoln Avenue, which was like their Sistrunk Boulevard, their J.A. Ely Boulevard, which was their Black business district, and I was just seeing so many dilapidated buildings. So I just asked, what does the future hold? Like, what is being done? And then she said that, you know, we don't have to worry about gentrification. And then I asked her, like, what do you mean? Because, you know, you caught my attention saying a bold statement like that. And what she said was that it was a couple years ago, the alumni from Roosevelt High School, the Green and Gold Foundation, and folks from the community came together and made their community a designated historic district. So it doesn't really stop gentrification, but it's able to help put a shield, to at least be able to offer some resistance. And when I look down here in Broward County, we see there's so many historic Black communities of the past, and we're seeing many communities of today that are going to be historic, like Lauderhill, Lauderdale Lakes, the East Miramar area, where these areas where there wasn't Black folks, but now there is, and they're telling the story. So now it's time for students for today, so that they can be able to have a jump start and not be able to miss out like some of those from the past unfortunately did.
Okay, wonderful. So from our pop quiz, you heard some of the things that Ms. Roxy said were coming in the chat. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what are some, you know, there were some basic things some people knew, you know, here and there, some snippets, but what are some important historical facts that you feel that educators absolutely should know, as it relates to Broward County and local Black history?
I think, great question. I think just showing that the schools were connected, Addicts, Dillard, and Ely, just showing that how important these high schools were for the Black community, whether you were in South, Central, and North Broward, and just showcasing that it was not just athletes coming from there, but it was doctors, it was lawyers, it was scientists. You had a great migration of folks from Black Tampa coming down to Addicts, and there's a community known as Sugar Hill, which was at one point like a Black suburb in the northwestern part of Dania Beach. And just knowing that you had all of these great, phenomenal people that went on to FAMU and Morehouse, that is something that folks need to know. Is that yes, there was segregation and there was a lot of sadness that was happening, but you had a prominent Black high schools where kids were really making something out of themselves. You also had many institutions in the Black community. They had many Black business districts. When you look at Black Wall Street, what we're talking about recently was the 100-year anniversary. In Broward County, Sistrunk Boulevard, Fifth Avenue was a prominent area with thriving Black businesses, hotels, clubs, things of that nature. Foster Road was home to the Palms, where you had Sam Cooke and James Brown and Nat King Cole and Jackie Wilson, the Hollywood Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, was in Hallandale.
I think you taught me James Brown still has family here in Dania Beach, correct?
Yeah, in the Liberia section, on Cody Street was where his according to Dr. Garnett, I said doctor, sorry, Mr. Garnett Benaby, who graduated addicts from the class of 1965, was telling me about his family, the Eubanks, and his aunt that stayed on Cody Street. But you have a lot of Black business districts in Broward County historically. J.A. Ely Boulevard, that area that separates Hollywood and Dania Beach, was a Black business district. You had Fifth Avenue in Dania Beach was a Black business district. You had where MLK or Hammondville Road for the Pompano folks, that area was a Black business district. You had so many Black business districts that we had to educate people on that there was a lot of greatness that was coming to Broward, and we could look at Broward history, not just Broward Black history, but overall Black history. The same way we look at Harlem as Black history, not just Harlem Black history. So the same thing we could do for Broward County.
And so that moves into even broader question, which I think you answered already, but what would you really truly want educators to take away from this discussion today, and how can they become actively engaged in local Black history for themselves and for their students?
I would just say, if you're here, I think you're a lover of history of some sort. So just take some time out. There's many books. There is My Soul is a Witness there by Deborah Work, which is about Black Fort Lauderdale. Dr. Kitty Oliver's Race and Change in Hollywood, Florida. You can look at the Black Broward Film Project on YouTube. There's many references of history that I feel as if we all just took a little bit of time out of our day, we could read and become educated and then be inspired to want to do more. And just think about the kids from these communities. A lot of these kids, they are multi-generational deep in these historic Black communities. So, just imagine how much you're doing for them by educating them on people who look like them, who came from the same streets that they came from. So just to take that, if you could take away anything, just to educate yourself and just think about the next generation and what we could be doing for them.
Awesome. And this kind of just came as an afterthought. And then I know I had some hands up, and I think I saw some hands up. I want to give everybody a chance to actually talk to you personally. Then this just kind of came as an afterthought. How much do you think it's important for teachers to allow students to bring their rich generational history, if it will, into the classroom? And even if you could reflect a little bit on your experience in school, and what would have made that feasible for you? What would have made that a comfort place for you?
I would just say, like, this a personal experience I had. One of my classmates from 9th grade, his name is Anthony Delaveau. We still good friends to this day, but his uncle is Samuel Delaveau, who Delaveau Park is named after. And Anthony, my classmate, his daughter recently, this year actually did a Black History Month project on her great grand uncle, or her grand uncle, I'm sorry, Samuel Delaveau. So now imagining if you're a teacher.
Oh no. I think we may have lost Mr. George.
Just being able to.
He's back.
Okay, go back a little bit,
Okay.
Mr. George.
No
We lost you when you were saying the granddaughter.
Yeah, the grand
Okay.
uncle, Anthony's daughter, is her grand uncle is Samuel Delaveau. So now it's just like, when he showed me the presentation that she did for her grand uncle for Black History Month. Now just imagining you're a teacher and you're teaching Black students, you're teaching students of color of the history in their black community, and now they're going to want to speak to their grandmothers, their grandfathers, their elders in the community, their extended family in the community, and imagine no telling what they could learn. They might, you never know, like some of your students might be kinfolks of the Elys, or of the Waiters family. Boise Waiters was the first Black elected official. They could be descendants of so many great people, even if they're not popular, but they could be descendants of a valedictorian at Addicts, or, and they might want to do a report on their grandmother who graduated from Addicts with high scores and went on to FAMU or Spelman or Morehouse and made something from themselves. So just like, to me, it just goes back to the next generation and just how important this could be, because this can inspire them to think better about themselves mentally, and which will make them want to do more for their community by knowing the rich history of their community.
And I know that is 100% true, because with my Black Student Union that you helped me with at South Broward this year, they ended up doing presentations, and one of my students in that cohort actually did a piece on gentrification in Dania Beach, was an outgrowth of that effort, and ended up interviewing her uncle, who ended up to be former Commissioner Jones. So, it is true. And I just wanted to put that out there for educators who, maybe at this point not sure what direction to go in with the new, language that's coming out of the DOE related to race theory and these things, but sticking to history and allowing the students to bring their own lives into the classroom is always a 100% way to go. Is there anything else that you wanted to add here, Mr. George, before I open up for people to talk to you personally?
No, just preserve the history, preserve the culture. That's all.
Okay. And we're gonna keep Mr. George with us. What I'm showing you guys now, these are actually pictures that came from one of Emmanuel George's articles that he's written. And it just goes to show some of the in-depth and deep work that he's been doing over the years. Remember, you can definitely find all of the resources that we mildly discussed, and many of the things that you may want to know about Old Dillard, about Casey Wright, about Mizell Ola Johnson, Liberia Daney. All right, put together a nice collection for you here, and you can find that on the WOVA app. And again, the links are live, and they will take you directly to where you need to go. I just want to point your eyes to the first, one of the first links that's in those resources. And it is a link that will take you directly to the Broward County Public Schools mandates, right? Everything that is there is for you to utilize. All of those resources there are approved by the county. So please, by all means, take a look at all of that information. And with that said, I'm going to open up for our remaining, it looks like we have about 9 minutes. I know I did see a hand up early on. I'm sorry I didn't take you then. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, anything they want to ask our guests or myself? Ms. Roxy, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Is there anything in the chat? Anybody have their hand up?
Let's look and see. I think I had a Q&A here.
Deneen Brown.
Are we going to cover some, they said, are we going to cover some of the local history today? I don't know. Isn't that what you've been doing? No, I'm not trying to be fun.
No, I that's what I thought we were doing.
Oh,
but
okay. So maybe whoever asked that question, you want to be a little bit more specific.
Is it something that you want to know? Listen,
is it a particular one?
You can test Mr. George if you want to. If it's something in particular you want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to show that I do have Legends of Broward history flashcards, which is 22 cards in a deck, and it features many pioneers throughout South Central and North Broward.
And
What
how do we
sorry,
how do
go
we
ahead.
get those, Mr. George?
You can get them on the website. It is www.thecreatecollective.com. I can put it in the chat room, and there's $20 a card. So feel free, and I will post the link in a few.
All right.
Are there field trips or virtual destinations we can take students to, mural walks, galleries, inside archives?
Great question. Great question. Currently, I mean, as we know, the pandemic kind of slowed a lot of things down, but I was doing the tour guide. I was a tour guide / tour director for CHAT, which is Cultural Heritage Alliance and Tourism, which is by Stephanie Jones. And I was doing tours of historic Black Broward. And I'm aiming to be bringing it back now since things are opening back up and people are getting vaccinated. And so there will be more tours coming in soon.
How can we reach out to Mr. George if we want to stay in contact and get more information about the local history from you?
I can put my information in the chat right now, just so you know. I can put my email. I could even put my telephone number down if you want to reach out to me. And I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm very easy to talk to get a hold of.
Email me, Mr. George, if you email me your information, I can actually build a page for you within the app, and you'll be able to communicate with everyone, and you can build out your page. And so if you do that, I can actually set you up in the app with the other speakers. So I'm just going to tell you my email address, and somebody can put in the chat for me. It's rhall@eventsbyvsc.com. It's rhall@eventsbyvsc.com. I guess I could put it in the chat for myself. I'm so used to Camille taking care of me here.
And I can forward it to you too, Mr. George.
Okay, and that because all of you all have my email. And what I will do, Mr. George, is I will build out. You have to give me a few days. I will build out send you a link that you can build out your page in the app. And that way you'll be able to actually communicate with the attendees of this equity conference. Deneen Brown, can you want to type your question because we can't hear you? Then someone asked, what are the books you suggest about Broward County history? What are those books?
All right. There is My Soul's a Witness by Deborah Work. There is Across the Tracks by Terry Hankerson.
Can you hold on 1 second? While he's saying those, Mrs. I don't know if they're in there. Ms. Russell, can you put those in the chat while he's saying them possibly?
What I will do is I'll have Mr. George send it to me, and then I'll put it in WOVA.
Okay, very good. So you can go ahead still and call them out, but we'll make sure.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just want you to make sure we're going to get you all the information that we possibly can. So Mr. George, you want to keep saying them? Yeah,
sure. There is Race and Change in Hollywood, Florida as well by Dr. Kitty Oliver. Oh, those are 3 books I named. There's also a book, but I believe they stopped producing in the 70s. It was a book about legends and pioneers of Broward County. It's a green book. I've seen it at the Blanche Ely House. The book by Dr. Dunn is Black Miami in the 20th century. So that's more Overtown and Liberty City and Little Haiti, Coconut Grove's Black history. But the other 3 books I mentioned were some key books for me, as well as the Black Broward Film Project, which is on YouTube. But I'll be able to send that to Mrs. Russell so that everyone can be able to get full access to it.
Any other questions, Ms. Roxy?
Let's see. Okay, it says that the acronym was CHAT. I caught the first part, cultural heritage, etc. I was trying to catch the A and the T.
Oh, that's a Cultural Heritage Alliance and Tourism.
Okay. They're all excited about getting this information in WOVA and WUVA. And Carlisa, you can just put it in there right away whenever you want to.
Yes, I am. I'm going to upload it right away. You'll be able to find it. You'll be able to find it. I think
you can even notify the attendees. I think you can do whatever.
Okay,
I think you can right away.
Okay, I'll notify all attendees, 'cause we have a bunch in here. Or were there any other
Right.
questions? We good?
Yes, Alliance and Tourism, thank you.
Okay, and so I just wanted to round this off again by saying, I know maybe some people, are just to clarify, some people probably looked at the title and said, okay, we're going to get point by point by point. If you look at these resources, really and truly, it's really there for you to do the research. I'm not going to do the work for you. But the point of this really was to show you what we have even embodied in Mr. Emmanuel George, right? This is a young person, Broward County bred, born Miami, Broward County bred, came through our school system, and is, you know, the epitome of what it is that we want to do and see for our youth, and how we want to inspire them to continue to do this work, and how we can engage them in our classroom in this work, but also learning and meeting all of our standards and all of our mandates all at the same time. And so the real point to me bringing Mr. Emmanuel George here today is to show you how you can, within the classroom, connect your students, yourselves, the larger community, to build that that school culture that is inclusive of diversity and all history, right? Any other questions?
I have a couple of comments. Thank you for a great presentation. Thank you for bringing your local talent to us to meet and be inspired and collaborate with.
He's not mine, he's ours.
All right. The Equity and Diversity Department offers a professional learning course, African American History in Broward. So I think that that somebody just wants to share that information. And they said they love it. Nice presentation. You got all kind of accolades and kudos. I think it's time for snap. I think that.
I just want to thank Mr. Emmanuel George for his time, his dedication, and his commitment to what he does, and the work is. I mean, I really never have seen anything like it. As an educator, you know, he makes time amongst all of the many projects that he's involved with, and he never, you know, falters in trying to assist, even if he can't physically be there. You know, always a wealth of knowledge, but he is, okay, he is contemporary Broward Black history in the flesh. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I love you, brother, and I hope to work with you. And please, we'll get all that information up, and I will continue to put information up from Mr. George as he continues his projects, just to keep everybody in the loop, because WOVA gives us this great space to collaborate. So you'll never be out of the loop. And so
and
thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. And if you don't have any other questions for Mr. George or myself.
Yeah, and the WOVA app, like you said, Carlisa, and we're going to, hopefully we'll be sticking around for a while, VSC, working with you all. But for sure, WOVA will be there for a year. I mean, and even within the WOVA app, you can set up meetups, you can do multiple things. So that's why, Mr. George, I'm going to put you in there. So once you get in that app, you can actually, if you want to set up a meetup with educators within the app, everything is there. So this will be a way for you all to connect throughout the year and beyond. And so we're very excited to be able to offer that platform. And that's going to keep this conversation going on for at least 12 months and hopefully beyond. So let's snap it up for Carlisa and Deneen Brown. I know you keep telling me you have your hand up, but you, from where you all are in a webinar, you won't be able to talk, but you can type your question. You can type your question and we can let them know, but if your hand is up, we can't hear you or see you in this kind of a platform. but you can ask your question via the Q&A feature, if that makes sense. All right, again, you got lots and lots of snaps there, Ms. Russell. We appreciate you all. I think that we're going to be ending soon. I think people will be joining us very shortly here for the afternoon session. We're in a
Thank you all. Thank you so
Mr.
much.
George, and it's so funny. I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, and James Earl Johnson was in Jacksonville, Florida. You know, just learning the Negro National Anthem. All of us have a powerful local history, and guess what? For good and for bad, right? We have those things that happens that was challenges that again we grew from and learned from. And so as we talk about Rosewood and Axe Handle Saturday and the Ocoee Massacre and all of those things too help to shape our history. And if we don't know where we come from, we have no shot at knowing where we want to go or understanding where we need to go. And so we just thank you for your desire to be an activist. And Ms. Russell, he said that he was your student. I mean, he looks like you're about the same age.
I just didn't put that there because it's better if he's an alumni and all that, you know. I listen, I have no claim. I wasn't his history teacher. I was his English teacher.
hey, whatever. But I'm just saying, you look so good, Miss Russell. I couldn't even tell. I'm just saying.
No. It's just I just been in the game a long time.
Don't crack, right? Don't crack.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I love you, Emmanuel. What's up?
Love you too. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Roxy.
Oh, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop right now the recording. Yes.